What's up, Cavs fans? Spencer German, Spencer Davies with you at Rocket Arena, where the Cavaliers lose today with our Sunday matinee game against the Celtics, 109-98. Certainly a lot to talk about for a matchup, Spence, that, listen, there was a lot of hype about this one for good reason, right? I think people sort of see this as a potential Eastern Conference Finals preview. And in that regard, I think I understand some fans are a little disappointed with sort of how this one played out, specifically in the first half, and we're going to certainly break that down. You know, I guess starting there, that's my biggest gripe with this one is just knowing what this game kind of represented, knowing it's the last time you're going to see the Celtics, knowing what kind of how people are going to view it. And if you had 4 days off, I get in some respects where that maybe makes you play with a little bit of a malaise because you've kind of gotten out of your rhythm. But for them to come out and look as, I think, flat offensively as they did, and Kenny highlighted that, the effort just wasn't there. And specifically in that second quarter, that was probably one of the worst quarters of basketball I think I've ever seen in my life. The Cavs didn't score a field goal. They scored one field goal in about
a quarter of game.
Yeah, like 8 minutes of the second quarter. They had a field goal with like 2:26 to go in the first, and then they scored one other one, and then a third one, like you said, almost a near quarter apart. They could not buy a bucket. They went 0 of 14 from three. They were 4 of 24, I think it was, or 26 from the floor that quarter. It was just not good. And listen, I can understand, like, in the locker room, guys just being like, man, if we make those shots, like, it's different. And I agree, but I think it's easy to walk away from this one feeling pretty disappointed about how that first half kind of went, because that decided the game ultimately. Like, they had the effort in the second half, but it was too little, too late.
Yeah, as you were saying the whole time, they were chasing. And even when you got it down to 8 in the fourth and the momentum was swinging, Donovan was getting everybody up on their feet at the crowd, it just wasn't enough. It wasn't enough because you had some back-breaking shots from Jaylen Brown, Peyton Pritchard doing his thing, getting to his spots, and even with hands in his face, falling away and hitting some shots. Jason Tatum closing out the game very well in the fourth as well. It was just too much. You know, Baylor Shireman going out and getting a bunch of rebounds, and I think he had 10 tonight. And, you know, it's those guys that should make you concerned when you're a Cavs fan, looking at how they've developed. And we talked about that in our last podcast. It's the Baylor Shiremans of the world. It's the Neemias Quetas of the world. It's Luka Garza coming in and giving them, 11 strong minutes. Like, those are the guys. Those are the guys that...
There's so many guys.
There's so many guys. That was our joke tonight. We were like, they have a bunch of guys that can shoot, a bunch of guys that can play and defend. It's just, they're a deep team, and they're a very good team. And as you were talking about earlier, like, you add Jason Tatum to this, it's almost like the cherry on top, because when he comes out of the game, it's nothing new to him. They know how to play without Jason Tatum.
They've been good without him. They've been one of the best teams in the NBA without him.
They've been really good and really, I mean, on their P's and Q's. And Kenny Eckes is calling Derek White a top 5 player in the NBA before the game starts. I know that's getting a ton of, in my scout's eye, I that's music to my ears because those are the type of players I love, but I digress.
I've loved Derek White for a while.
Yeah, for sure. But ultimately, like, you can say you missed a bunch of shots, and that is true. Like, Kenny said that he wanted to see maybe, 3 or 4 of those shot attempts, maybe try and get to the paint a little bit more. But let's just put it this way. You're missing shots, but that's also because you're not getting to your spots. You're not getting to your spots, and that's what they did really well against Detroit. And you got to give the Celtics credit for that. I'm watching Peyton Pritchard give Dennis Schroeder a hard time. I'm watching Derek White obviously give people a hard time. But I thought, again, Shireman and Jaylen Brown, they were doing a really good job of pushing guys off, because it wasn't like the Cavs were not trying to get to the paint or break the paint. They tried. They just couldn't get there. I mean, just looking at body language, to me, it looked like they weren't trying to settle for threes. Obviously, you take threes off of offensive rebounds that the Cavs got, and that happened multiple times with Thomas Bryant. Thomas Bryant bricked a bunch tonight. It happens. But I think that they were in the right mindset of trying to get there, because it started with Evan Mobley, and we're going to get there, but Evan Mobley started this game out terrific and was getting to the paint, and then it opened up his outside game. But I don't think it was a thing where we're like, we're just going to coast and try to shoot a bunch of threes, because you don't want to get in a shooting contest with the Celtics. That's what they're trying to do. But Boston is good defensively. So, it was tough. It was a tough night, honestly, on the 3 new guys. I think it was a tough night on Harden, Schroeder, and Ellis.
I think that's fair. And we'll get to some individuals here in a second. Yeah, listen, I don't want to undersell the fact that the Celtics are like a really good basketball team. And you talk about not getting to spots, and also you talk about not trying to get into a 3-point shooting contest with Boston.
And crowding Evan Mobley when he had the ball back to basket. How many times did we see that? Like, sometimes you just have to take what they give you, and they're like, okay, you're open.
Yeah, it felt like the Celtics basically like goaded the Cavs into turning this into a 3-point contest, and they took the bait. And like again, and that's where I do have sympathy, where they're in the locker room talking about like, yeah, like for some reason we just couldn't buy a bucket, and if we just knocked down a few of those, the game's probably different. They're right if they knocked it, but they didn't tonight, and that's the issue is like you can't if that's going to be what these games become against Boston, if they're going to force you to do that because they are a really good basketball team. You got to have the guys to be able to knock those shots down, and that leads to other areas of disappointment, I think, for certain players, which we'll get into. But yeah, man, like it was frustrating to see that second quarter because, like I said, they were in chase mode the rest of the game. The second half effort, you felt like, man, if you had this in the first half, this is a completely different ball game. They cut it to I think like 4 at one point, like it was really close. They gave themselves a shot, and they just couldn't kind of get over that hump because they were constantly chasing. I will say this though, like defensively, I thought that was there pretty consistently throughout. There's probably some lulls along the way, but mostly throughout this game, it felt like because even in that second quarter, the Cavs had a rough quarter. The Celtics didn't have their best quarter either. They only made 21. They only had 21 points in that quarter, and it was kind of a miracle that the Cavs were only down 20 points at the half because it felt like they should have been down 40 with the way that they were shooting offensively. But their defense kind of kept them in it as well.
Defense definitely kept them in it, and I thought they did a good job of trying to gunk it up a little bit. But again, like Boston in that second half made some really tough shots. Like Jaylen Brown is a tough shot maker. Peyton Pritchard is a tough shot maker.
It's unreal, man.
And then what happens is, if they do get that stuff and the Cavs don't get the defensive rebound, which I think they did a good job of rebounding today. I'm not going to, say they didn't, but when they do get that offensive rebound, then it starts the swing actions. You have Baylor Sharman open in the corner for a 3. You have Hugo Gonzalez open for, shot. You have all of these capable guys. Sam Hauser, somebody who consistently hurts the Cavs. Sam Hauser always does that. I think he had 15 tonight, right? Like that is important to have when you have the caliber players that Brown and Tatum and White are. When you have that supporting cast, which the Cavs have had.
Yeah.
Like let's not undersell that. It's not like Sam Merrill's been a dunce. It's not like
bonafide scrub.
Yeah, it's not like Jalen Tyson's been bad. It's not like even Dean Wade's been bad in like these spurts. Like when your role players aren't the ones to play well the night that the role players are playing, then you're in for a bad night. Yeah. And the problem is all of the Cavs role players decided to have a bad night today, or did have a bad night today. Like Sam was bad in foul trouble. Dean Wade coming back from an ankle injury didn't look his best. Did a good enough job on the glass, but and defensively, always, Dean's going to make an impact, but he didn't have a great day. Keon Ellis, 4 fouls, and I think had, what was it? 0 points, maybe 3 points, something like that. Dennis Schroeder had
he had 3.
Yeah, Dennis Schroeder had a tough time with Pritchard all game long.
Keon had 0 points.
Yeah.
Dennis Schroeder had 2 points. Yeah. Thomas Bryant had 3 points.
Yeah, 39-16 in the bench. That's a big
huge difference.
Big discrepancy. But that's the thing, though. Like, I think people can look at the box or can look at the score and say, oh, they must have played like crap and turned it over. Dude, they turned it over 7 times. The Cavs turned it over 7 times. They played a clean brand of basketball. They played good defense tonight. And you still lost by 11. And that's why I ultimately think it does come down to one quarter, but you have to credit Boston because they made that quarter happen. They are the reason that the Cavs could not get a field goal for nearly a quarter of play. And, that's just how the cookie crumbles sometimes. Yeah. But look, I mean, I can't handle them with kid gloves. The Celtics are the ones that took it to them today in that sense. And even if it was just one quarter, the Cavs, like you said, were the hunters the whole game. When you're the hunter, then you're forcing yourself to play a game of catch up.
For sure. Yeah. And I think to your point, like today was a microcosm of like make or miss league, I think. And to go back to the joke we made about they just have a lot of guys, like it really is unfair because I mean you get Tatum back in the lineup, and it's like when he leaves the floor, it's like the Celtics don't even like skip a beat. Yep. They're so used to playing without him at this point. Their role players like are already well equipped to handle those moments. They're well equipped, right? They're so used to it. And even then, like, think about this: the minutes where Brown and Tatum were both off the floor, they're used to having Jaylen Brown off the floor because they've been doing that this year already. So it's just wild. And that's the thing that's tough, because like we talked about, the defense did do a pretty solid job tonight, and they forced a lot of tough shots. But it's like the Celtics just have guys who can make those shots. It's waves of guys that can just make those shots. And it's demoralizing because every time the Cavs would get it within 10, within 8, they got it down to, I think, 3 or 4, like I said, at one point, they just could not get over that hump because the Celtics had guys that made shots at timely times, and that was the game. So, yeah, man, like that team's a juggernaut. And I do understand, too, to your point, you brought up the bench points. I think that's the thing that probably grinds the gears of Cavs fans the most in this one, is like, yeah, you can handle the loss to a degree, and you kind of learn from it, hopefully. But it's the fact that their role players stepped up, scored off the bench, gave them this spark, and the Cavs role players that they keep changing pieces and parts of, right? You add Keon Ellis, you add Dennis Schroeder, you're adding guys to sort of like try a different iteration of this thing, that those guys kind of still fell short. And it just makes you wonder, like, how close are you really to this Boston team? Can you beat this Boston team? I know that's going to be the thought from this game. And I know regular season is different. James Harden talked in the locker room about, I think we got some good intel on how they're going to defend me, how they're going to defend the different guys. So it's not that there can't be something learned from this, and you'd rather be in the regular season than in a playoff game. But I understand where Cavs fans probably feel that way, where they see the discrepancy in, like, their bench players are so good and they scored so much and they really picked up the slack, and our guys just continue to like falter in these big games against good teams. When is that going to change? And the only people that can really change it are the Cavs themselves, right?
Yeah, no, and I think it's the games too that are nationally televised, and it's been been on Sundays. You look at what happened at OKC. They start off really sluggish in the first half, come back all the way, take the lead actually, and end up falling on the road at OKC. You look at obviously what happened with Brooklyn and almost having been a scare there, but they did just handle the Knicks pretty well. They did play the Pistons well in Detroit without their guys, and then when the Pistons came to town, they handled business here too. So it's not like they've been playing these pushovers as of late. They do have an easy schedule pretty much the rest of the way after this week, no lie. But it's one of those things to where I think the fact, again, I'm going to bring this up. Usually you have like 1 or 2 role players that might not have it that night. Tonight, it was like every role player. Every role player didn't have it tonight. It was really the Donovan and Evan show, and late, I guess you can say, James Harden, but even Harden wasn't all this.
I want to get to James because, and I don't want this to be like too harsh, because listen, James Harden has been awesome for this team since he got here. But as we talk about the moment, we talk about these big games, we talk about being disappointed in some of the results in these big games. And I saw the comments during the game. People were tweeting me saying they have a big game problem, they have a bright light problem, all those things, the cliches that everyone always has in their back pocket. They went back to them. But James Harden was a guy you got for these games. And listen, I'm not going to act like he wasn't impactful. The guy had 10 assists, for God's sake. Like, he was setting others up to be successful. He did finish in totality with 19 points, which, all things considered, is pretty solid. But he shot 6 of 16 from the floor, not great. He was 3 of 8 from 3, and some of the ones he missed were open looks that you expect James Harden to make. Like, I'm not trying to be like, I'm not going to beat a dead horse here and say, oh man, like he really let him down. But he needs to be better from an offensive standpoint in these games, because that's what they got him for. They got him to make those shots when they need it in big games like this, whether it's the first quarter, second quarter, whatever. And in that stretch in the second quarter, there was a long stretch where like he was kind of the main figure on offense. And he really wasn't giving you much either, and that's disappointing. Like, those are the moments you need James to really step up. So again, I'm not trying to call him out here and act like he hasn't been great for this team, but I think this was one of those games where you were expecting a little bit more from James Harden, and hopefully that reflects in the playoffs. But I think it's fair to say these are the games you got him for, and I thought it was a little disappointing that you didn't get a little more from him offensively today.
Yeah, no, you definitely have to hold him accountable from a scoring standpoint, and he got to the free throw line, that's fine. But not nearly as much as you would like. You also think that maybe break the paint a little bit more. Yeah. But he did. He goes to his step back quite a bit, and sometimes he'll get into that heliocentric mode because it's just pretty much what he knows
and
during.
That's fine, by the way. Like, it's gonna happen, but it's like when he does that, he's got to make more shots. Like it's the outcome has to be you make the shots.
Yeah, well, Donovan does the same thing, and sometimes Donovan will go into a not a shell, but what'll happen is that, you know, you get like it's almost this feeling of I've got to put this on my back because no one's making anything.
Yeah,
and it's human nature to do that. The problem is, like you said, the timing of it, and then when it doesn't happen, when you're not executing it, then it looks really bad. Because I want to say that Harden had like 8 and 6 and 5 or something at half, right? Like, and that's fine. That's an all around game. But from a scoring perspective, you like to see him get to the free throw line a little bit more, which he's very good at. And you like to see him get a little bit more to that step back if guys aren't getting into it. And, you know, the step back just wasn't falling tonight. I think one of them he just completely missed. I think he airballed one, like over the rim. And so that was an interesting, you know, you haven't used it seeing that as a Cavs fan. But this is exactly, though, why on our podcast a couple weeks ago, I was like, don't start taking victory laps. You got to see this stuff first.
Yeah.
You got to see this stuff first. And yeah, he's bigger. I get that. But that doesn't always mean that against teams like Boston that you're going to just figure it out right away. It even for a 36-year-old vet, you're going to have to go through stuff like this. And he hasn't played to his standard or what he wants to play to. He said that in practice. He doesn't think he's been playing all that well. But the team has around him. The problem is the team around him today did not play up to par. Yeah. And that's, you know, I think the positives we can get into, and I'll do the transition for you here.
Yeah, no, that's perfect.
Evan had a good game.
I wanted to go to Evan next.
Evan had a really good game, both ends.
By the way, I saw the comments when he first came back from the calf, and everyone was like, "Oh, Evan, he's soft and blah blah blah, all those things." Again, guys, it took him a couple games, but the guy he was becoming right before the injury, he looked like he was back to that guy. It was both ends. Yeah. He was awesome.
This is what they saw a couple years ago in that playoff series when Evan was out there. He's pretty much dominant on him. Probably the first game that gave him the flashes of belief in Evan because of the stage and who they were playing against. Evan today was fantastic. Had 7 of the first 11 points. Kept going to him throughout the game. Was confident enough to take some threes today. It just looked like he was fluid out there again, just like he was against Detroit.
He actually took 6 of them.
Yeah, I was going to say he did. He took quite a bit today. It's a good mixture. When you're playing the stretch 5 the way he was tonight, because he's not going to always be playing the stretch 5. Sometimes he's going to be playing the 4 when Jarrett's back. You're going to have him at the 5 position. He rebounds better when he's at the 5.
Do you think he's more comfortable in that stretch 5 role, like when Jarrett isn't out there? This isn't like a Jarrett versus Evan thing. I'm just honestly asking.
It's a good question. It's a perfectly fine question. I would probably go towards yes, unless Jarrett's not the focal point as the 5, because now Jarrett is the focal point at the 5 with James Harden here. Before that, JA wasn't getting involved too much usage wise. When Evan's usage was up at the 4, it was a little bit different. I think he was a little bit more comfortable because Jarrett wasn't really the action guy. But now that Jarrett's the action guy, I think that Evan probably thrives more in this stretch 5 type of position. It's good to see him get reps with James Harden. I know I mention him every show, but me and Mikey were talking in the first quarter. Saw Evan actually make some contact on screens today.
Yeah.
Good to see. And I know that that's a very low bar, but Evan is just this type of player, just putting it out there. Evan is a ghoster. He is more of a slipper. Today, he was setting a little bit more of the screens, getting a little bit more of the body into guys up top, above the break. So we'll see if that works with James, and if James and him can develop a chemistry. We already know that Donovan and Evan have that chemistry. I think Sam did a good job of trying to find Evan today, even though Sam did not have a good game today, but
just the 5 points.
But I think Evan was awesome today. I think that's something you can take away. And then Donovan Mitchell,
obviously I want to get to Don.
Yeah,
coming back off the groin injury, there was actually a moment I want to bring up because we were literally highlighting this in the game. He was locked in the fourth quarter and really like the catalyst for their comeback they mounted, and they sat him at like the 7:30, 7:50 mark of the quarter. And I kind of said to you, Spence, I was like, yeah, this is probably like they're going to give him like a quick breather and then get him back out there. And I saw somebody actually comment on the fact that like, Kenny makes some weird decisions when guys have the hot hand. And my response to that is, guys, if this was a playoff game, Don was clearly not coming out. Like Don was maybe for like a quick breather, but like he's clearly getting Don back in pretty quickly in that situation. I think this was kind of like a maintenance, like, hey, it's his first game back off the injury. Like, I don't want to push it. It's still regular season. We want to win this game. But yes, I think in those moments, generally, you can count on Don's going to be out there and he's going to continue to put the team on his back. He was awesome down the stretch. We've come to learn that about Don. Like, we have no doubts that when things get tight and you need some buckets or you need something to happen, he had that really silky smooth cross step back on Jaylen Brown, who's his friend, made a three, and like the house went nuts on that one. I mean, he was everything you want Donovan Mitchell to be.
Got to his spots on the float shots, got inside, got to the free throw line. I think he took 11 of them. That was big time. And he didn't turn the ball over once. Again, I'm going back to this. Like, they played a clean game. Like, we can bitch and moan as much as we want to that they didn't make shots, but they played a clean game. They didn't give it away to Boston. So it's a tough one to evaluate for sure. But Don, I mean, let's not forget that this guy hasn't played in a couple weeks, and he comes back and puts this performance on a Sunday against the Boston Celtics. I think that's a great sign for the Cavs because Donovan looked like Donovan.
Yeah,
and maybe that groin was bothering him a little bit beforehand. Fluid movement today from him, and again, just very clean. Had a couple blocks too. Really was activated and engaged, especially to start that second half.
I think that Jaylen Brown step back he had on Jaylen Brown, and we also have to highlight the James Harden, basically like free throw line to Evan outlet alley-oop pass,
3/4 court alley-oop, which
if you haven't
ever seen that before.
There's no way you haven't seen it because it's all over social media. But that play was incredible, and that's those are the things you're like. That's why you get a guy like James Harden. And those are the moments you're like, that's why he's on this team. Just need a little more offensively.
And also that happened in like a game where they needed points. So he made that. It wasn't like that was in garbage time or just a stat pad. That was a legit 3/4 court alley-oop to Evan Mobley.
The Browns could use a quarterback who could thread the needle that nicely. I mean, that was so good.
Had to get in the Browns joke. He had to do it.
I mean, no, seriously though, like that was a tight window. We've seen some pretty good like Kevin Love outlet passes in our day. That was next level. That was insane.
The precision on that was insane. He had a nice behind the back one to Jalen Tyson for three that got the crowd going too as well. I think it's also worth noting too that like, I know that they were chasing it, but this was an 81-55 game, and they could have easily mailed it in, but the Cavs just kept coming back. I think they hit a couple threes, Sam Merrill and Jalen Tyson of the few that they hit, because they were 2 of 22 at one point and finished 13 of 45. So that's actually the second half. Second half they played some good ball. They played some good ball in the second half for sure. And I think you can take away some stuff from this defensively for sure. I am not going to go on a limb and say that these role players for the Cavs are going to play as poorly as they did today when it comes to the postseason. I don't think so. Maybe it is a lights too bright thing, and I'm off. Who knows? But I just don't think so. Like I
still don't think that's it.
Yeah.
Like I still don't.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you, like the mood in that locker room was very.
They're a different team, and they have different players right now. It's not the same cast.
And the mood in that locker room was very like, we know if we just hit a few more shots, it's a different game and it could go differently. Like the confidence is not wavering. It shouldn't. Even if confidence outside the building and from fans is wavering, like I get that. But I will say this, Spence, and as we kind of get ready to wrap up here, no Sunday afternoon starts in the postseason, I think, is probably a good thing for the Cavs. They just don't do well on Sunday afternoon games for whatever reason. And this one was like super abnormal because 1 o'clock. Sometimes these games are like 3:30, and that's a little bit better. 1 o'clock is rough.
Noon start for the
basically basically is a noon start because daylight savings. And
no, I'm not going to make excuses.
I'm not trying to make that excuse. It was more of a joke, but yes,
I know it was more in jest, but still, no, it is an odd aspect about this team and Sundays. It's a really day games, honestly. Aside from the Minnesota whooping they put on the Wolves a few Saturdays back, or probably last month or month and a half. I don't know what time is anymore. But that was really like the only day game that they've played well in. So day games, it's an interesting thing. And last point I want to make too.
Sure.
Thomas Bryant did not have the best showing today. I think you see the importance of Jarrett Allen as well. And Jarrett, because he's become a focal point now with James Harden and the pick and roll offense, and they've had to change things up a little bit because J.A. opened Kenny's eyes to what he's capable of even more so. Jarrett is a very, very important part of this team. And when you don't have guys like you had Thomas Bryant out there at the 5, but you also had in the fourth quarter, you had Dean Wade out there at the 5, which I thought actually the lineup did pretty dang good. But I think people underscore JA's importance too often on this squad, and especially with the Harden squad and having those two together and the way that they operate in the pick and roll. And it's good that Evan had the game that he had today. Don't take that away from him, but I think JA in that spot's a little bit better because then you can still put Evan at the 5 when you start out the second quarter with him running with the 2s the way we saw against Detroit when he had such a good showing there to start that quarter with the 4 guards, right? So I think Jarrett is a big piece of this. And hey, before people say I'm making excuses, I'm well aware that the Celtics did not have Nikola Vucevic today. Very aware of that. So before that happens, yes, the Celtics were the better team. They are the better team right now. And until proven otherwise in the postseason, that's just is what it is.
That's a good way to sum it up, I think. And I like your points on Jarrett. Granted, I am interested to see how Kenny deploys because Jarrett has been played off the floor against the Celtics quite a bit in recent years. The way he played lately, maybe that doesn't happen. But I'm curious to see what that looks like come playoff time if these two teams do meet. But we got our potential Eastern Conference Finals preview out of the way. 18 games to go for the Cavs. They're back at it tomorrow right here at Rocket Arena, taking on the 76ers. So it's a quick turnaround as they get back in the swing of things. And they got 18 games, like I said, to sort of get this all nailed down, figured out, and get ready for the playoffs. Make sure you head on over to CavsRoundtable.com. We got you covered over there with some of our written stuff, but also subscribe to the YouTube channel so you get more content like this, our post-game conversations, our podcast, just overall, these are episodes of the podcast, but the whole overarching episodes of the podcast, and all of the post-game press conferences. We got Kenny up there today. We got Donovan up there today. We got Evan up there today. We got Harden up there today, so you're going to want to check those out as well. Thank you for hanging out with us post-game. Have a great rest of your Sunday and weekend, and we'll be back with you tomorrow after the Cavs take on the 76ers.